What is up, guys? It's Green Apples again. Today I wanted to talk about assessing units based on your needs. And so what I would like to go over is what to look for in a unit, because again, this is going to be for newer players, and so like it's going to be really hard to tell what's good and what's like not as good. So if you look at the tier list, like it's not actually going to do that for every single unit. Like you're not going to have nothing but festival units. So you want to like get some insight on like, should I keep this guy or should I awaken him? What is this person good for? And stuff like that. So the whole point of all this is going to be able to teach you guys how to do this with your own ability without having to look at a tier list or something. Because like sometimes that could get you down, it could ruin it. It's like, man, I think this guy's super good, and then the tier list has him like B or like C, and then you're like not so sure, and then you don't feel as good about yourself anymore, or your character for that matter. And so that's what we want to like try to like avoid, and to like help you guys like understand the game, understand what to look for, and like how to use these characters. And it's going to help you think for yourself and to grow. And even if you are wrong and you're just like, man, this sounds really good on paper, and like you go and you take it to a quest like, oh man, this isn't so good, like that's just gonna like, there's no better way to learn than by failure, and so it's only going to help you. And so I do have a few examples of who I'd like to go over. They range from like farmable wizards to like not so farmable. The first character I want to look at is Lupica. I think she's a really good example of a good wizard unit, someone that you can farm and get max bugs. So one of the first things that I would look at are the color. So like you should never compare units that are different colors, even if they do like the same thing. It is very rare for a unit to be able to transcend color boundaries, especially now with the new damage formula. Like it's very rare for a character to be that good. There are some, and there used to be more, but not anymore. So I would try not to like compare apples and oranges, But yeah, the first thing I would look at are her stats. So when you look at someone's stats, you want to think, okay, what are their stats, and what can you tell from them? What can you tell that this character does or should be doing? So Lupica, like HP isn't that important unless you're like a stamina type and then you like scale off of HP. But Lupica definitely doesn't do that. She has 4200 attack and 2900 recovery. So 4200 attack is above average. I would say maybe yeah, anything in the 4000 range is more suitable for attacking than not. But then the recovery, you shouldn't heal with someone unless they have at least 33 or 3500 recovery, and she definitely doesn't, so she's definitely not a healer. So you would go to think, oh, so this girl was made to like be more offensive or more to attack. And so like you just keep on going down the list of her abilities and see if it supports it. So the first thing we're going to look at is her skill. It has a 6-turn cooldown. That's very short compared to a lot of characters. 6 turns is actually kind of the meta right now. 7 is acceptable, or 7's good, and 8 is acceptable, but the skill better be really good. Anything more than that is like kind of head turning, and anything less is either extremely specialized or an extremely good character. So she converts red to green, blue to yellow, and then reduces red rate for 3 turns. So what this does is that it actually just brings the board, like no matter what, to well, not no matter what, it brings the board to 3 colors, which is really good. That's like concentrated board manipulation on a wizard character, which is kind of like hard to find. And then she reduces red panel rate for 3 turns. So the 3 turns thing right there kind of leads me to believe that she's more of a support unit, because an offensive character kind of puts like all of their worth, all of like what makes them balanced, like all of their attributes, like they put like their starting points into offense. And like Lupica is like, oh, I put some into offense, and I put others into support. Like if you look at Yoriyagami, you look at his skill, it takes like stats from his recovery, dumps into his attack, and then for 1 turn he has this like amazing effect. That's an offensive character. Lupica is like, she's like more of an in-between. I guess that comes from the technical type. There's technical and balance, but like I like to think of technical as like combo piece. Like some people break that mold, but like, that's fun to think about. And you can't really tell on paper, but when you actually use Lupica in practice, that red panel rate down is like, it almost gets rid of red completely. Like it's really strong. And so you're dealing with 3 colors for your first board, and then you're you pretty much got rid of another one on a 6-turn cooldown with a wizard unit, and that's hella good. That's what we want to see. But we're starting to get a little spread out from our initial thought that this is an offensive character. So we'll go down to her crash skill. Massive damage to an enemy, ultra effect on deities. Okay, now we're back towards offensive, because what this does, it says that like, oh, we probably should be using her to attack because she gets an attack boost or a damage boost, but only towards deities. Okay, so that means like she's going to be more niche than not. So being more specialized compared to being great everywhere is actually one of the very few things that distinguishes a good character from a really, really good character. But it's very okay to have a silver bullet lined up for a specific quest, and she kind of destroys deities. And then she also has remove junk panels, and those can get to be a pain real fast. So it's one thing to have junk panels spawn on the board, and then like that's it. You can fever those away, but there's something called junk skyfall, and that means when you clear a board, junk will come down, like, and then it'll accumulate if you don't have a junk breaker or if you weren't using one this turn. So it enables her to attack against deities, and also if there's a lot of junk skyfall. So she can be used for at least 3 different situations, which makes her a little bit more not niche, which is what we want, right? But yeah, overall Lubica I think is super strong. She's not like, a festival unit. She's still a cost 45, but I think she's a welcome addition to like almost any party, and like she's a great bug max unit, and you're only going to need one of those, right? So you can focus on the rest of your team being stronger. Next character I would like to look at is Hugin Immunin. He's one of my favorite characters ever. Like my favorite Pokemon is Honchkrow, and it's basically 2 Honchkrows. They have hats and everything. So we're gonna look at his stats. They're actually almost the exact same as Lupica's. So we're gonna think, oh, he's gonna be meant for attacking. So if you go to his skill, convert timer panels to bombs large size, and then massive boost to blue units attacks for 3 turns. So we're kind of having a little bit of deja vu again with the 3 turns thing. His ability is spread out, so you would think it is more of a support type. Also, the whole blue unit attack thing, it's not just him, it's your whole team if they're blue. So you can use him as a supporting skill to like, say you're going to go off with like 2 or 3 characters and you throw his in the mix too to deal even more damage. And the timer panels thing, that's another thing to make this thing Hugin Immunin is more of a niche character. Because like if there's no timer panels on the board, then we kind of just lost half the usefulness of this. I think they thought of that when they balanced him, because again, he's also on a 6-turn cooldown. That's super short. That's what we want to see. I also think somewhere, I don't have proof of this, but I'm pretty sure it is true, that he gets buffed in Japan, and like he turns red panels into bombs. I'm not too sure about it. I'm pretty sure that is the case, but even if it's not the case, he's still good. His crash skill is deal high damage to one enemy 2 times. High damage isn't actually very high. It's one of the lower effective modifiers, and then it deals twice. So I think that just makes it weaker. But like, he kind of has a game changer on his last ability. He has a machine and animal killer. So even if it was just one or the other, let's say he just had machine killer, that would be it would still be really good. That would give him like more usefulness, right? And so you could bring him to like destroy a red machine quest, and if there's timers, like, oh man, even better. But like that's not the case. He has both. He has 2 killers. That's extremely rare on any character to have. And what's even more rare is for it to happen on all of his damage. You'll usually, like when we saw this on Lubica, it was only on her crash skill. Hugin Immunin, it'll happen on every single damage. So if you just get like a shit ton of panels, like 5 taps, all blue, or like blue and yellow, you threw a swan in there for some reason, like he's gonna do a ton of damage, and you give him red apples to further amplify that, he's gonna like wreck shop. And this is on a farmable 45 cost wizard unit that you can bug max, and like it's given to you for free if you just like beat the quest like once or twice. So I think Hugin Immunin are like super good, and like he has a lot of good stuff. Not for every quest. Like if there's no red, timers, or if there's no existing animal or mech enemy, then he does kind of fall short. But that's up to you to decide whether or not you want to bring him. Like maybe he's your only bug max unit, and you're kind of like you gotta work with him. Next character is Sucre. Sucre is was a farmable wizard because she's like I call all units with a 45 stat wizard or 45 cost. She was farmable during I think the Valentine's 2018. She's super good and she's kind of different than the ones we just talked about. If you look at her stats, again, they're very similar to the last two characters. We looked at, give or take, some stats being put from one stat into another. But I am going to mention the human fantasy tribal on her. Tribes are like pretty darn important. Like usually they kind of are more of a hindrance. Like say if you're doing Gilgamesh, I think he requires blue units to have two tribes because he'll just kill anyone that has one tribe. So all of a sudden, man, I can't use Murasaki Shikabu, or I gotta use someone else. Human fantasy is super relevant for Sucre though, and we're gonna find out why. Again, she has 4,300 attack, so we're gonna think she's more offensive build. And she turns one panel to SCP extra large. That means she's gonna be like really fat. It's gonna destroy the board most likely. Fantasy units get 1,000 attack, and then drop another SCP. So you're gonna get two of them. You're gonna get probably two board clears off this character if there's no gimmicks for one turn. So this is like a mix, like in the other way of the last two characters. She supports by giving fantasy units, like such as herself or other fantasy units you have on your team 1,000 attack. But this is only for one turn, so this is like even more offense orientated than the last two characters that we just looked at. It is a 7-turn cooldown. I think it is because it is a very strong skill, despite it not really providing board manipulation. This is a character that provides board clearing, which is strong to have a combination of the two, right? And then her crash skill is passive damage when enemy. It's very vanilla. Given her other abilities, she kind of doesn't really need anything more than that. She can destroy junk panels, which is good. Almost all units should have a gimmick counter. Human Mutant, if you noticed, like didn't really have like a solid one. It's built into a skill, but it's good to have it passively, so you don't have to count on a cooldown or like hold off on Human Mutant, even though you want to burst, but you have to save it because you know timers are coming up. She has easy CP spawn for fantasy units. That's all fantasy units on the team, not just her. And so what that means is that it takes less panels in a chain to make a crash panel, and it's going to help you out a lot. It's just easy. Sorry, it's just easy with no like immense or massive effect. So it's a little light, but this thing's up constantly. So I think it's very nice to have. On the very ability 3, these are bug abilities, so you had to like kind of bug max her, or at least get her up to 60, I think, to get them. Fantasy units gain 214 attack and recovery. So just by having her on her team, she gives herself and all other fantasy units an extra 428 stats total. So this kind of brought into the idea that when people saw her, they're like, oh man, Sucre with like other fantasy units would be super sick, but what if they were all Sucre, right? And so like the Sucre train was born, and so you're getting 428 times 4 stats just by having 4 Sucres. And so like they just became festival units with those kind of stats. Like they're pretty close. That's like a 15,000 like total. And so like it was it provides a different level of niche than what we were used to, right? So this is like a party composition one with tribal niche. Like that's something you would see in like a card game, but it's nice to give us the option to put it in here. And she is not the only fantasy. There's like Gato, or you can use there's some other ones too. I don't know them off my hands, but just know that she's not alone. The very last ability, -2 skill turns for fantasy units when the quest begins. Okay, so if you were thinking about the Sucre train, we're like all aboard the Sucre train by now. So like that's like you start the quest with Sucre, right? And so if she calls for it, you get your skills immediately, and you can burst through a potentially deadly first floor phase. And so Sucre was an interesting case to look at because she brought into a new type of party composition that we wouldn't really have done with like Lupica or Hugan Immunity. She supports tribal and actually supports herself really well. Many copies of her. Let's see who else we got. Balder. Balder's funny because like we haven't seen a recovery type yet, but he is a recovery type, like a healer. Like if you look at his recovery stat, it's like 5,100. and that's like incredible, especially on a lower cost unit. So if he breaks like just a few hearts, it's going to do way more. I'm not sure if this is the case, but I think recovery stat scales better than attack because recovery isn't subject to all the attack multipliers that the attack stat is. But that might not be the case. That's just what I think. Also, 99 blue apples doesn't give the same amount of stats as 99 red apples does. But I could be wrong. His skill, recover HP, it's like a lot. It'll full heal you. And then massive unit recovery and defense boost for 4 turns. So that's definitely not an offense skill, right? So this is more of a like, let's try not to die kind of skill. It has a super long cooldown at 9. That's like something we're really not used to. But I will tell you that it does last for 4 turns. And again, with a multi like same unit thought process, you can think that 2 balders actually cover each other almost 100%. You can have almost 100% uptime. It's not like 2 recommended because his HP is really, really low. It's like almost 2,000, 2,000 HP less than the other characters we looked at. But he does like bring in like different options, right? Because all of a sudden 2 balders from a he's a permanent hatchery unit, but he's very common because like he has like what four iterations of him. You can pull any of them. But he's strong because he introduces another option of bringing like 2 of the same unit, a very common unit, to have a very high, very, very high defense down or attack, like damage taken down ability almost all the time. I don't like his crush skill because it does extra damage to mechs, and like he has a kind of like suitable attack stat for it. I wish they would have taken like all of his attack out and then given it to his HP, but it was probably a balancing factor. Like this is a character almost everyone's gonna get like right away. I think he has antivirus, and so that can be strong for certain quests. I think Jean might do it. So bringing him to Jean is a good idea. Leaf is gonna be the first cost 53 unit. I mentioned in my earlier videos that cost 53 is very close to 55, and in this case, and Haruka's case, it may as well be a 55 because it's so strong. She's also the first stamina. Oh look, she's a green fantasy. She's gonna be the first stamina type we look at, and so I want to point out how fucking high her stamina is, and that's a really good stat to have be really high because like it enables you to like stall longer, to live through high damage phases. It just keeps you alive because you can't do anything if you're dead, right? She has a sizable attack stat if you want to skill up on her turn, because sometimes you're going to have to. But she has a very low recovery stat, so don't bother healing with her. So her skill, it's just like, mad crash panels, her crash panels, and then 2 big fat ones. So that board is gone almost no matter what. She also has an anti-timer gimmick. But you wouldn't want to use it on her turn because she has very low hearts or low recovery, right? But that's okay because her skill spawns her crash panels even if it's not her turn, and we're about to find out that her crash panel is super good. And then a massive green panel rate, 2 turns. If you guys know who Lancelot is, he has that same ability, but it's only for 1 turn. But massive rate increase is huge. It's going to be a ton of green. He's on a 6 turn cooldown, but Leaf is on a 7, but it's almost the same thing if not better because you get 2 turns of this massive green rate right? And like that kind of negates the 1 more cooldown on her turn skill. Her crash panel is ultra damage based on own max HP, so that right there tells us that like we want to give her more HP. So like the last characters that we saw, you would have given red apples to the first 3, and then like Balder, either blue or green. I think green's really strong on him. But for Leaf, you definitely want to give her green, right? Because it's just going to increase the damage that she does. Not like her when she's up front. It's going to increase the damage when you activate her skill because it affects her crash panels only. And then green unit, low recovery boost. So that actually is stronger than you think because there are plenty of quests that reduce your recovery stat, and anytime something is buffed or negated or lowered or lowered and then buffed, it counteracts it completely. Like you can be your attack stat could be lowered by like 10,000, but if you increase your attack stat by 1, it negates that 10,000 and then brings you back up to like n+1 of what you're like what you started off at. So that's really strong. You can think of it as another gimmick counter. If you can destroy junk panels, that's great. Blast reduction ineffective is actually kind of rare. I see a lot on green units, but it's great on her. And I didn't know she had bug abilities, so this is kind of funny. Let me see. Boost attacks, technical types. So yeah, these are more niche abilities. These are what we call box dependent. It would depend on like the characters that you have available, because this affects human and fantasy types. But if you don't really have like great green human or fantasies, then it wouldn't help, right? But yeah, Leaf is a really great character and like a good like example of how good a cost 53 could be. And remember, you can farm those up as long as you do those quests. And then we're gonna look at Freud. Lastly, I wanted to give like one example of a festival. I also wanted to give an example of a character that works in a lot of places. So if you look at her stats, they're all great. High HP, high attack, and then she also has a sizable recovery. I would heal with her, even if it's maybe not like 3,500, but 34 is pretty close, and you can get away with it. Her skill cooldown is 8, which is on the higher end, but once we find out what it does, it's pretty justifiable. She's gonna spawn a super crash panel. She used to spawn a bomb, but like Ultra Awakening does a crash panel, which is even better. And then another bomb. And so what's gonna happen is that she's gonna have like extra large bombs drop, or large bombs, sorry, of any color drop as you keep clearing the board. So just like you're going to get board clear after board clear after board clear. So she pairs really well with characters that increase tap counts. That's kind of rare in red, I think. I know my favorite character, Fondue, she does it, so she pairs well with her. But here's the other thing, like she has the offensive aspect and then the defensive aspect. She reduces all damage by 40% for 2 turns. So we're back to some lingering ability after your cooldown, right? So you can think of this as like a 7 cooldown turn or something like that. It's really good to have, and it gives you some leeway in case like I think we're gonna die, but then there's also going to be this huge shitstorm that's going to happen 2 turns from now, and we'll be fine if we use this. She actually has the exact same crash panel as Lupica. So again, more offense orientated, but even better against certain enemies, deities to be exact. She has damage panel counter. We haven't seen that yet, but it's real, trust me. Sometimes those damage panels will just one-shot you, and like you're gonna wish you had a character there that countered it. And this is strong. Boost red panel rate when up front. This gives us even more of a reason to like attack with her, despite having stats thrown about all over her character. Like they're in her HP, her attack, and her recovery. But this does give her more of an offense orientated. But remember, she does have some defensive aspects to her. And this is a cost 55 festival unit. They're like the god units. They're the best in the game. And so it's this is a good example of why you would bring Freud to like all sorts of different areas, right? She can defend, or she can heal a little bit. She can like off heal, and she can attack. So it's hard to find stuff like that on lower cost units, and that's why festival units are so desirable. But yeah, Freud, she used to be one of the best units in the game. I think she was like the best red for like a short time, and then she kind of fell from grace, and she's like one of the quote-unquote lower festival units. But I just wanted to like remind you guys that if you do get a festival unit, try and like really be happy with it, because they're not easy to get, okay? And like they're kind of the end game. They're what going to allow you to do ultimate wizard quests and really transcend like just the average player, as long as you have like the knowledge provided. But that's what we're going to be working on, right? So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys an idea of like what to look for in units, and like how to approach the game, and how to do maybe I'll do a team composition video. But yeah, thanks for listening, and I really appreciate you guys. See you next time.